the nation, and it is a bonus. Today, I'm joined by the wonderful comedian and author of the book Separation of Church and Hate. It's John Fugelsang. Hey, John.
Hey, Negin.
I'm also joined by decorated master of business and host of the podcast The Messy Parts. It's Maryam Banikarim. Hey, Mariam. So today, we're going to talk about John's book. So let's take a quick break, and then we'll get right into it. And we're back. So Fugelsang, knowing your stand-up, it's like I've been waiting for you to write this book the whole time. What kind of got you into this book in the first place? What inspired you to do it?
Well, I've been promising to write this book for many years, and I've actually been pitching this book for many years. I submitted my first ever book proposal for this in the summer of 2010. So don't give up on your book dreams, kids.
Oh my God.
I submitted proposals for this for years with different literary agents, and I finally sold it on a verbal pitch in an office.
Wow.
After years of writing the perfect, bulletproof book proposal. But I grew up an abnormally Catholic life. My mother, as you know, was a nun. She entered the convent right out of high school, and they put her through nursing school and sent her off to work with lepers in the jungles of Malawi, Africa. My father was a Franciscan brother who taught history to Catholic boys and wore the Jedi robes. And my dad, my father, the brother, met my mother, the sister, fell madly in love, had to carry a torch for 10 years and never let her know, was her pen pal while she was in Africa.
Oh, my God.
Eventually, he talked her into, after 10 years of pining, he talked her into leaving the convent and going on a date.
Oh, my God.
They were married 2 months later, and they settled on the Isle of Long. My half Brooklyn, half Southern family, and tried to raise us to be progressive, free-thinking Catholics, which is why I do stand-up. I can't afford the therapy I require. Progressive, free-thinking, but still sexually repressed, don't worry. And growing up, I was always taught that Christianity was about the stuff that Jesus of the Bible talked about. Servant leadership, humility. The last shall be first. Go to the margins to help the less fortunate. How you treat the lowest is how you treat Jesus. Pay your damn taxes, render unto Caesar. Stop executing people. Only sinless people have a right to execute. Matthew 25, Jesus in the judgment of nations, also known as the parable of the goats and the sheep, gives his marching orders for what makes a Christian society. That's, I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. Jesus says individuals and nations are going to be judged, heaven or hell, on 4 criteria. Did you take care of the poor? Did you take care of the sick? Did you welcome the stranger? Mm. And were you kind to those in prison? If you didn't do those things for the least of us, you didn't do them for me. That's what I grew up thinking the religion was about. Not total right-wing domination of the school board. Jesus' movement is all about humility. Conservative Christianity is not about the teachings of Jesus.
Yeah.
It is about conservative Christian power over society, over culture. And growing up, I would see these televangelists, and they didn't talk about the stuff Jesus talked about. The Falwells and the Pat Robertsons that dominated the news as I was a child, they talked about welfare queens and feminists and gay men and migrants and people on welfare who were bums and abortion and nothing Jesus ever talked about. And so many people have grown up feeling that this religion of peace and love has been hijacked by this mean little white supremacist tax-free clique. And I've done this for years. God, you've known me for so many years, and I do these debates. I go on shows. I do material about it. My managers and agents all gave up on me years ago because they were like, can't you talk about sex and talk about beer and leaving the toilet seat up? But everywhere I performed or did TV or broadcasting, people responded. And I came to think, Negin, the largest growing religious demographic, they say it's Mormons. Some say it's Islam.
Yeah.
I think in this country, it's people who were raised religious, but now consider themselves spiritual because they're turned off to all the meanness and cruelty and hypocrisy. Yeah. So this book is a guide for believers and atheists. It's all the issues that divide us from feminism, women's reproductive rights, LGBTQ equality, healthcare policy, social safety nets, the economy, gun legislation, the death penalty, sex hang-ups. And it shows that if you're debating a right-wing Christian nationalist or fundamentalist, even if you don't believe in Jesus, he's probably on your side.
Yeah.
And it's all about how to use the Bible when debating the right-wingers in your life, because I'll always believe that you're not going to sway them. You're not going to change their mind. You can sway their wives and kids and the bystanders at the cookout. But I think even the most awful racist uncle, you'll get farther with him showing in the Bible how Jesus was not an immigrant-hating homophobe than if you just haul off and call your uncle an immigrant-hating homophobe. They will appreciate that you made the attempt to engage them on Scripture.
Right. And I actually have this, I have a question for you, Mariam, because you came here as an immigrant. Mm-hmm. I was born into all of this, and so I feel like I'm curious, as an immigrant, when you were, 11, when you came to this country, what did you understand about Christians? And how, and has that changed?
What a good question.
To more of have you felt the fundamentalism grow, or what have you, in your kind of from immigrant eyes, what did you think about Christians when you came?
Well, I didn't grow up in a really religious family. In fact, the craziest part of the story is that I went to preschool in Boston for a year, and when we moved back to Iran with my parents, we started celebrating Christmas because it was cultural, right? Because we had Christmas in my preschool, so we went back and we had, in Iran, a Muslim country, we actually also celebrated Christmas. Yeah. So when I married my husband, who is Jewish, he was like, we don't celebrate Christmas. I was like, I'm Muslim, technically, and I always celebrated Christmas. Why can't we do that, right?
Yeah.
So I was always sort of a mutt in that sense and not particularly religious. But growing up sort of in a very Western way, right, you saw people getting married in a church. And that was sort of like the common narrative. And we definitely moved to a lily white suburb, a waspy suburb of San Francisco. So I didn't worry about those things. I was just focused on blending in
the
as
Muslim
much as
Jewish
possible.
Christmas is the most American thing I've ever heard.
Exactly. I regularly say Merry Muslim Christmas, because it is we celebrate it. It's a time that everybody has off. It's nice. The kids love it. My daughter believes in Santa, and I'm cool with that. It makes sense.
I was always jealous that I couldn't go to Sunday school because it seemed like people had friends, and I wanted to join everything. I was like, why can't I go to that? That seems good. Yeah. Or I went once to a friend's Sunday school, actually, at a synagogue, because there was a limited number of Jewish people in Lafayette. And I went and I remember arguing with the teacher about a fact. That was me as a kid. I seemed to be willing to argue with everyone. So I just was never all that religious. And I still am not. And I don't really, I haven't spent time trying to understand it, because I think I recognize that religion was really the thing that changed my experience at 11, right? Yeah. Made me lose belonging in community, the thing I now long for and try and build through the longest table and other things.
Right. So in a way that Christianity could be so delightful, right? Like going to the church and sticking around for the muffins afterward or whatever happens,
But it's community.
It's community, right?
That's what draws people in.
That's what draws people in. And then now, so I guess, what?
But it's the same in all the religions. We talked about this on the last show, but it wasn't religious people that caused all of those problems. It was fundamentalist religious people, the extreme conservatives, who traditionally are the ones ruining all the world's great religions and causing all the intolerance. Most of the Christians, Jews, and Muslims are doing fine and getting along right now.
The general premises are the same, right? And I think that, they value family, they have belonging, whatever. There's a lot of commonality between a lot of religions. But when religion becomes something else, right, about power and business and money.
Exactly.
And so I say, the longest table is like church without the religion, right? We all gather breaking bread. It's as old as time. And we all want that. Everybody deserves a neighborhood that feels like home and a sense of belonging. That's why, I think I've always been spiritual. I always thought there was a higher power, or, I want this, or,
And the world's religions all teach us to love our neighbors and respect our neighbors.
God, it's me, Margaret. We all grew up with those things.
Yeah. The problem with fundamentalists don't think they're better than you. They think that God thinks they're better than you.
Yeah.
And fundamentalists are not going to sit down with someone who represents Satan, because if you oppose them, you're against God. And I'm not going to discuss school curriculum or marriage equality with an emissary of Satan. And when you believe so strongly that anyone who opposes you is evil, you're capable of incredible acts of evil.
I wish I had that kind of certainty. I just never had that kind of certainty.
But
What
that's
will I
it.
like?
But that's it. The
And
opposite
actually,
of faith is not doubt. Doubt is an important part of any faith journey. The opposite of faith is certainty. And fundamentalists are the ones who know. And generally speaking, if anyone tells you they believe all of the Bible is literal fact and live by all the Bible is literal fact, they haven't read the Bible, and they're counting on you not having read it as well. In the case of immigration alone, the God of the Old Testament commands us to welcome the stranger. The God of the Hebrew Scriptures commands us to treat the alien as one of your own. His son Jesus comes along, Matthew 25, and says, you'll be judged heaven or hell by how you welcome the stranger. So the simple question is, why should I listen to you and Donald Trump and reject God and Jesus?
My religion is Mr. Rogers. I
Yeah,
mean, it
yeah,
seems basic,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
it's like,
Yeah. I think
what's
Mr.
wrong
Rogers'
with
show
kindness?
was
Also, and it's
profoundly
funny
Christian.
because
It was
it just-
profoundly real Christian.
Right, and it sounds like this, how you treat the stranger is like the basis of a Mr. Rogers philosophy, right? Is that, and it's funny because it is like that should be brandished in front of Christine Ohm,
Yes.
and everyone at DHS of like, how are we treating the stranger? Now you talk.
And by the way, I'm so sorry. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have standards on who comes into the country, and I'm not saying I'm not calling for open borders or amnesty. That was Ronald Reagan who called for open borders and gave amnesty. But to me, it's the criminalization of migrants, calling them illegals.
Yeah.
You know, like you'll never hear these folks call a white lawbreaker
It's
an illegal.
othering.
It's
What
an
you're
otherizing
describing
term.
is othering,
It's an otherizing
right?
term, and they only use it on brown people who cross borders, not on white lawbreakers.
I want to talk a little bit about the kind of like what we can do part of your book.
Sure.
You had this really beautiful story about your grandfather and your relationship with him, and he had his bigotries, but on his deathbed, when he was literally being read the rites from a priest.
Yeah.
They sent a priest who was Filipino, and your mom and dad were like horrified because they thought, oh my God, his last moment is going to be a racist moment against this priest, and instead it wasn't.
Yeah.
He just fully accepted that man.
At the very end,
At the very end.
My dad made me go into the hallway because he didn't want my last memory of my grandfather to be him rejecting love. When the Filipino priest from the church showed up for the last rites, my dad was anti-racist before that was even a thing. I don't know what happened. My dad joined the Franciscans, out of high school, became a brother, and that changed him. That made him the black sheep of the family. My dad worshipped Martin Luther King, worshipped Gandhi, worshipped Dorothy Day. Didn't want me to see my racist grandpa doing this on the last day of his life. But yeah, by that point, he was past it, and he held hands with a Filipino priest, and they embraced. And as I say in the book, it was the saddest day of my dad's life, and it was also one of the happiest because it just showed that love can transcend this.
Love can transcend this, and if you're dealing with a family, so I guess I want to close on this. If you're dealing with a family member, like that story makes me cry. Sorry, if you're dealing with a family member who has these bigotries and they're a fundamentalist Christian,
and you love them,
and
you know they're
love
wrong,
them,
but you
right?
still love. Even if you're an atheist, they're the family you still love.
What's your piece of advice?
Well, I wrote this book because they're full of crap when it comes to Christianity. And I wrote this book for anybody to be able to talk to your fundamentalist or Christian nationalist loved one and say, but doesn't Jesus say this? Actually, that's not God. That's Paul saying that. And if you believe Paul saying this, then you got to believe this as well. I mean, these people who want to condemn gay people because Leviticus 18 says man with man's an abomination. Leviticus 20:10 commands you to stone adulterers to death. So I'll let you guys work that out with Mr. Trump. I'll let the Secret Service know you're bringing some rocks to Mar-a-Lago.
Right.
It's the hypocrisy that does it. And if you're going to call yourself a Christian, Christians aren't supposed to follow the Bible. They're supposed to follow Christ. But there's this notion of, well, it's in the Bible somewhere, so one's as good as the other. And that's how the hang-ups of Paul have over the centuries come to be as valid as the love of Jesus. But I'm not an optimist, Negin. I'm a recovering cynic. and I don't know what it's going to take to fix the economics of this country, to bring back a middle class. But I do think that we are becoming kinder. Mm-hmm. If you had told me in the 1990s that we would have marriage equality for gay people, that we would stop throwing people in jail for cannabis, that we'd have a black president, If you told me this in 1999, I would not have believed any of it. And yet we've witnessed all this in the last 30 years. Kids today can't believe how homophobic we used to be. And
that we would have a Muslim mayor of New York City.
An incredibly popular Muslim mayor of New York City who got the largest youth turnout in the history of the primary. So there's so much evidence that we are getting better, getting kinder. I think as kids today are appalled at how homophobic we were 20 years ago, in 20 years, kids are going to be shocked at how transphobic we were now. I do think that while economically we're not getting kinder, in our hearts we are. And that's something about the human race that keeps me leaning in. Yes, we're in a period now where we're backsliding. Bigotry is acceptable. Every advancement in civil rights has always led, to a backlash. Slavery ended and we got Jim Crow and segregation, but then you had civil rights. But that led to Nixon and the Southern strategy and the drug war. So then we had the black president, and that led to this racist reality show clown and these goons in masks chasing brown kids around church picnics. There's always the racist backlash, and that's always been the history of America. But, as bad as it is right now, we've had a war where 600,000 of us died over keeping humans in bondage. World War II, we had the atom bomb, we had the Holocaust, like Vietnam War, people hated their families. We've been in situations like this before. My point is, what side are you going to choose? Especially if you're Christian. Are you going to stand up to empire like Jesus? Or are you going to grovel to empire for safety like Judas, like Trump? And that's the history of Christianity. It's the fake Christians against the Christ followers. Rome takes over and has the Crusades, and they're slaughtering Muslims, slaughtering Jews, slaughtering pagans, doing the opposite of Jesus for Jesus. Big cross as we kill these people. But St. Francis stands up and protests in the name of nonviolence and love. You got slavery is totally propped up by Christianity, and you've got the Christ followers like Frederick Douglass and the Quakers and Harriet Tubman, who stand up. Columbus is slaughtering the Taino people in the shadow of the cross. It was the Catholic priest on his third voyage that did the first act of protest by a white person in this hemisphere, Bartolomeo de las Casas, over how they were treating the indigenous. Look at segregation. Dr. King, a Christ follower with the Gospels.
Right.
There's an incredible history of Christian activism, but it's always in response to Christian authoritarianism. And every generation of people who say they're Christian, they got to choose which team they're going to be on. Because there's two Christianities, the kind that loves Caesar and the kind that resists him.
Guys, thank you so much.
I told you I'd be preachy. I'm so sorry.
No, it's an incredible book. And honestly, it's like one of the most useful books if you're just like an American and trying to navigate this discourse. And it's fun and it's funny. It also made me cry at points. It's a really...
More dick jokes than the average Bible analysis.
Absolutely. There's more dick jokes. It's such a great time. So please pick up this book. From John Fugelsang, The Separation of Church and Hate.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mariam. Thank you, John, for joining the show.
Thanks for having us on.
Thank you both. I'm honored to be here with you. And congrats on this great space. It's really fun to do your show here.
Oh, yeah. Thanks to PNT.
Welcome to our half circle table.
Thanks to PNT Studio
At the Lower
East Side.
I didn't used to get to watch men urinating on the sidewalk while talking to you, and now I have that freedom. This is amazing.
That's what the Lower East Side offers.
I used to buy meth right over there. I can see it from where we're standing.
Now you can just buy a book next door, John.
All right. Thanks, guys.